All right, so I'm pumped about this because personal branding is like you're pulling at my heartstrings here. I truly believe that people are the new brands. We've had this shift from your traditional corporations, the big brands that everyone knows and used to trust, and it's shifting more towards people. So let's start with what is branding? I think it's the most confused word in
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. So it's really abstract, right? I think a lot of people really think of a brand as a logo. Like there's just this common misconception that your brand is your logo. And historically speaking, it was, it literally started out as, cattle ranchers marking their territory to,
Yeah.
this is my property. It sets me apart from other people, which then evolved into companies using a brand to brand their products, which was a logo. And now it's become so much more than that. It's really, there's a quote by Jeff Bezos that, I think says it really well. Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room, right? So essentially it's your reputation, and what does that actually mean? With the way that I work and the way that I look at a brand, it's essentially the translation of, your voice, your vision, your message into something that people can actually see, feel, and trust.
Yeah.
So
let's unpack that, right? Let's actually, I like to make myself the test subject. So if I come to you and I say, Vanessa, I have brand confusion, or I need a brand, or but where do I start?
Yeah, so I put my clients through a very specific process, and that's the thing. Most clients do come to me with, kind of this idea in their head of what they want, but they need help taking all of that stuff that's going on in their head. And they have an idea of who their ideal clients are, but they're not always really sure. They kind of know the vibe that they want to put out there, the look. They know what their offer is. They know what's landing, but they don't know how to really put that down on paper and put that out into the world in a way that makes sense to people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we start with a very, very thorough brand questionnaire that I've, crafted over the past couple of years that dives really, really deep into, their vision, their values, their journey into what they're doing. We touch on their, ideal clients. I ask them, out of all the clients that you've had, which ones are your favorite? Not asking names, but thinking about, that person and, what is the type of client that you want to have all the time, because that's who you're actually speaking to,
Right.
and we craft a very clear mission and vision. We craft that ideal client in the form of a persona. We develop the brand voice and tone, so how you're speaking and all of your messaging and how you're trying to make your audience feel when you're talking to them. And, that's the starting point. And it's not until after that is all in place that, it really flows into the visual identity side of things, which is, I think, a lot of times what people confuse as
Yeah.
the brand, right? But you're just taking everything that you crafted on the strategy side and figuring out, okay, and that's where the artistic element comes in. And it's a lot of just intuition and experience of just, how do we take that, this is the way they're trying to make people feel, this is the idea they're trying to get across, and how do we translate that into visuals, so that logo and
It's a lot.
it's a lot. It is a lot. There's actually a lot to it.
A ton.
Yeah.
But it's so
realize.
important because brand confusion might be one of the biggest struggles a small business owner has.
Yeah, for sure.
I had this, right? Like, am I an author? Am I a speaker? Am I an insurance agent? Am I a corporate trainer? Like, I had no idea.
Yeah. All of them.
Yeah, but then how do you take that and make it just one brand?
Yeah, and that's where the strategy comes into play, right? I mean, you could have this overarching umbrella, that you as Scott grades, and how do we craft a strategy around all of these different things that you offer and all of these different things that you do and make them make sense to people when you are putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I love, and I jotted it down here. You mentioned that you help entrepreneurs translate the heart of their work, and this is what I dig about you. You get into the emotional, sensory, heart of the work. So talk to me about that. How do you do that? That seems really deep.
It is really deep. I think that, what a lot of my clients, if you ask any of my clients, is one of the things like I pride myself on with my work is, they'll tell you that after working with me, they felt like I cared about their brand and their mission as much as they did. And I really do. So for me, it's like when I'm working with a client, I can see if that they're stuck in a place of, not being clear, not showing up with, confidence, and, they're really lacking in, even sometimes struggling with like imposter syndrome. Like,
Yeah.
is this the right thing for me to be doing? But they're so excited about it. And so I get to be that person that, is their cheerleader and that helps them kind of take all of that scatteredness that's going on in their brain and, through that brand questionnaire, through, sometimes we'll just do strategy sessions in the beginning where we'll, sit down for an hour to an hour and a half and just talk things through, and just really get clear on, okay, this is the right direction for you. And, once you get into, then I'll start crafting like a mood board based on everything that we came up
Okay.
with. I'll give them a couple different visual directions and they see it. And once they see it, it's like, yep, that's it. Like, that's what I was talking about. And like to see them light up and be like, wow, like you somehow took everything that I was thinking
Yeah.
and I didn't know how, I didn't know what it would look like. I just knew that I would know it when I saw it.
Yeah.
You know what
Well,
I mean?
and a lot of people are visual learners,
Yes.
right? Like it's hard. Even as I sit here now and I think about my own brand, I'm like, what logo should I have?
Yeah.
What I know you're into colors. Like, what colors should I be using? What and that starts with figuring out who is the perfect customer avatar,
Yep.
right? Who do you want to speak to? Because that's another thing that we kind of get lost. We can do all these different things, but we shouldn't.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We should really just hone in on the one main
Yes.
thing that
Yep.
we could the one problem that we can help people solve, right?
Yeah.
Because that's really what it's all about is what is your customer avatar's pain point,
Yep.
and then you speak to that.
Exactly.
So talk to me about when it comes to personal brand. I say often that I want people to know me as a husband, a father, a community leader, a thought leader. And oh, by the way, I can help you with these things too, right? I think
Yeah.
so many people lead with the business stuff
Yep.
versus who's Vanessa.
Yeah. So the business brand and your personal brand are, it's like they're two sides of the same coin. I feel like, they're distinct, but they're intertwined because your personal brand is essentially going to become, something that feeds your business. And I feel like, that becomes even more important when you're a small business, especially if you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur with just a couple employees. Your personal brand, like you need to make sure that everything that you're putting out there aligns with, your business values as a whole. But I feel like, a lot of times too, like people just don't realize that people buy from people.
Yeah.
So, that putting a face to the business, that's where that becomes really, really important.
Yeah.
Think about, when you go to check your inbox, are you more likely to open up an email that came from a business or an email that came from a person?
Right.
And a lot of times, like we do these things, we don't necessarily realize why we're doing them, but we connect with people. And, as a business scales and grows, that becomes even more important. Like that business's mission, vision, values, that business brand becomes even more important in the hiring process, because if you want your business to be solid, if you want that solid foundation, you want to hire employees that are going to stay on for a long time and feel like they are contributing to something, you're hiring people that are in line with your mission and your vision. And so, now you see employees, even of larger corporations, diving more into their personal brand and putting themselves out there because they know that them putting their face out there and showing up and talking about their story, it feeds the business. Just like you said, by the way, I can help you with this.
Yeah. I've got 2 kids almost in college. And when I talk to them, I talk about creating their own personal brand, right? And they don't even know what they want to do or where they're going to end up. But what it does is it, makes you so employable. Like, I have this phrase like house money. Like you can't lose when you're playing with house money, which is to say, like, if everything blows up in my world tomorrow, I'm still confident I'm going to be okay. I don't know what I'll do next, but because I've built a brand for myself, I can take that and present it to others, and hopefully that would be attractive to them. So
Yeah.
so even employees,
Yep.
right? And I think the other thing too is everyone's building their own personal brand, whether you
Yeah.
want to label it or not, especially in this digital world and social media. Like the first thing I do when I get a resume,
Check social media.
I check social media,
Yep.
right? How many
Yeah.
bathroom selfies do we have? And, how many rants about politics? And,
Yep.
but it's
Yep.
true, right? And so when I talk to
Yeah.
kids, I'm like, be so careful. Like this stuff doesn't go away.
It doesn't.
Like,
Yeah,
it-
especially like you said with social media, it's
yeah.
there. So,
Like
yeah.
everything you're putting out there, you are forming
Yeah.
your own personal brand.
Yeah.
So, yeah, talk to me. So this word influencer. So Jay and I talk about this a lot. We think Joe Rogan, we think, Mr. Beast, right? These
Yeah.
big influencers. But I truly believe like you're an influencer. I'm an influencer. Anyone who has a voice in a community, and
Yeah.
it could be a dozen people
I agree with
that listen to you, like you are an influencer. And so how much like coaching, training, consulting do you have to do to get people to understand that you are the brand, you have a voice, you are an influencer in your circle, and there's people that buy from me because they feel like they know me, like me, trust me,
Yep.
that I've never met.
Yeah.
And so that's the goal, right? When you talk about scaling a business, is
Yeah.
you want people to trust you before they even meet you.
So, fortunately for my clients, I haven't had to do much like training
They
or
get it.
trying to convince. Like
Yeah.
I think that they get it, and that's why they come to me,
Yeah.
because they've finally reached a point where they realize how important like showing up is and creating content and, putting stuff out there is. And they're at a point where they're struggling with that because they just feel like they're overthinking everything they're about to post. They're not really sure what to put out there that's going to appeal to their specific clients. We talk about offering value.
Mhm.
They want to create a resource for people, or they want to do a masterclass, and they're like, but this person over here is doing this, and this person over here is doing that, and I'm not sure, if I should be following trends, or I don't know who my people are. And so they come to me because they're ready to do that. They're ready to show up, but they just they're not feeling it. Like they're
Yep.
not feeling confident or clear enough to really to do it. And so that's what I love, is I love being able to give them that clarity and that solid foundation so that they don't feel like they need to question everything and, like think, oh gosh, there's a million squirrels, which one should I chase?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
they're honed in on what they're supposed to be doing because they know that it's right for them.
So let's talk about your customer journey. Like you talked about the initial intake form and getting to know them, but you have different levels, different ways people can work with you. Like what's entry level? Like how do I get into Vanessa's world to start herding these cats? You can do squirrels. I'll do cats.
Yeah, cats.
Because I know
Perfect.
I'm all
Yeah.
over the place,
Yeah.
and I kind of want to dip my toe in the water. Like, is that a possibility with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So right on my website, I have a link to just book a discovery session. It's a free call, and just to kind of talk about where you're at, how long you've been in business for, what your main marketing audience touch points are, and just talk about what your main struggles are, what it is that you're hoping to achieve. And it's really, really different for everybody. And so when I first started my business, it was 2 years ago. I'm entering my third year now. My primary service was just, I offered 3 basic branding packages. And what I was realizing, there's a very basic one. It's like a brand refresh, very minimal deliverables. The middle of the road one offers a little bit more of that strategy side of things
Mhm.
that we talked about, where we really need to like get clear on everything before we dive into that visual identity. And then the larger package is just more content strategy. There's a lot more to it. And it was those 3 that I offered, but I was realizing that when people would, come to me, it wasn't as cut and dry in that as
Right.
that, like they have very unique needs. Everybody has different needs, and they're like, well, some people want signage, some people need merch, some people need, more print collateral than others. And so I have a whole custom branding system where I can really customize proposals specific to, the individual's needs. But the other service that I offer, which I've also been realizing is a need when people have come to me, it's like they are fairly clear and they're ready to like dive in, and they're just like, I need a brand and I need a website and I need it fast. And so
Okay.
I just created what's called my Soul Sprint. It's the Soul Sprint package. It's a
that.
1 week. Yeah, it's a 1 week branding intensive, we call it. So we, we give them, we book a call, we kind of assign a week to work on that. I give them a little bit of homework. They need to fill out their questionnaire ahead of time, but we dive right into creating a mini brand and a 1-page website so that they can just get their stuff out there. And it's also for, people that are on a little bit more of a budget too.
Right. Tell me we're in 2025 when you say things like people come to me and they're like, hey, ASAP, I need to figure out who I am and make me look good to the world, like on a budget and do it immediately.
Yeah.
Which leads me to, you can't work with everyone.
You can't.
Right. And so who is your ideal client?
Yeah. So my ideal client is someone who has been in their business probably for a year to 2 years, maybe 3. They've been struggling with DIYing it from day one. And so that's the thing, when people start their business, it would be great if everyone just had the investment to like dive into, a custom brand design and start showing up with, that professional look right away. But those first couple years are such an experimental phase in your business. I think a lot of times people, they don't realize, they think they have an idea of like who their niche is going to be. They think that they, know like, oh, these are going to be the offers that are going to land. These are going to be the products that are going to land. And, they're experimenting and they start realizing that things shift a bit in those first couple years. And they don't have a huge budget in the beginning. So they're DIYing everything. They're designing everything in Canva, which is an amazing tool. And I love it because I'm all about empowering entrepreneurs to really own their brands. But sometimes having an outside perspective is helpful. And so my ideal client, they're a few years in and they're over the DIY. They're like, you know what, I need someone to take everything that's going on. Now I know exactly who my clients are. I've worked with people. I've talked to them. They tell me why they love working with me. They tell me that this is the offer that resonates with them and this is why. And we're able to take that and really develop something solid for them to use.
I don't know if there's a more important aspect of business today, honestly.
I would agree with that, but I'm biased.
I figured you would, yeah.
I agree.
But what's the first thing we all do when we're considering a business? Yeah. We look them up. We go to their website.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, we look at Google reviews. We look at pictures. We look, it's the very first, no different than, social media. Like, we vet who we want to do business with, and there's nothing worse than going to someone's website and because you're all like excited, like, oh, I think I want to, and then you're like, ooh, like,
or finding they don't have one.
Oh gosh, yeah,
but you have no idea how many people have told me that they don't need a website.
Ooh.
So that's another thing. Yeah, right? It's hard to actually like understand how people can think that.
Are they doing illegal activities?
That's if you want to actually look like, there's so many scammers out there and so many people just trying to like sell you something that isn't even real and take your money, and it's like you don't want to have a digital presence to like back up that you're a real person. It's so important. It really is. And so we could joke about it, but it's like, it's true.
It's right. Yeah,
it's true. It is.
It's we both started businesses from scratch, and it's so hard because you are, on no budget almost, and it's stressful. And the one thing you're trying to do, the products, services, whatever you're offering needs to be your main focus. Yeah. But there's these 19 other things that are important, but you don't have the time, interest, knowledge, money. And, we get into this trap of, well, once I have this much revenue, then I'll do this. Or, once I get to this, year, then I'll.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to get there.
It is.
If you don't have the look, the presence, on the front end. Talk about your scope geographically. So are you working with only people in the area, or do you work with people outside the area?
So I do work with people outside of the area. So mainly my business as of, so far has been a lot of word of mouth. And so it has been primarily local. But I have worked with clients out of the area that I've connected with that have been people that have recommended me to people that they know, or people that have found me on, on Instagram or LinkedIn. So So, that's the goal, to expand more broadly, especially with things like the Soul Sprint. I feel like, if I could, the goal is to do 2 of those a month, to really help people that are in a good place to just kind of get something out there and they really need that digital presence. I feel like that's something that might really appeal to people that are, a little bit further away. I do love working with people in the area because it's great to like actually meet in person.
For sure. Yeah.
It's just something to be said for that. Like we just spend so much time behind a computer
Zoom.
these days,
Yeah.
and we've got a lot of great spaces in the Utica area,
Yeah.
to meet. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, let's talk about like you and your capacity. All right. So are you a one-person show?
I am a one-woman show.
How does that work? Because you're talking about a lot, right? I mean,
Yeah.
This is deep work that you're doing with people.
Yeah.
You're doing all these free consultative calls, which
Yeah.
makes me nervous personally for you. It seems very time consuming.
Yeah.
And then you're doing all the deep work to help them identify who they are and the brand, and then you're bringing it to life. So
Yeah.
and you
It's
have kids and you have,
I
like, do you
do.
sleep? Like, how does this work?
I sleep well.
Okay, good.
I'm surprised, and I'm also a part-time fitness coach. So,
Yeah, we can talk about that too.
So it's just a lot of time management. Like I block my calendar very well. I try to block out certain sections of the day for discovery calls if those come up. Obviously it's ironic that all of the stuff that I preach about, right, like the constantly showing up and putting stuff out on social media, like that's the part that for me slides, because if I'm buried in, client work or just trying to manage like the administrative side of things, or kids or whatever, appointments, like the content and the posting and the just constantly being present is what goes, which is unfortunate because it is really important. We talk about that, but that's the great thing about being part of, a great community and referral network. It's, you stay top of mind with people, which is nice.
How much of what you offer is done for the business owner? So this is an area that I struggle personally. I'm really good at thoughts and ideas, and then to like bring it to life and consistently do it. I feel like if I don't outsource it and have someone do it for me, it probably won't get done.
Yeah. So for me, because of my ideal clients are who they are, right? They're solopreneurs. They're on a budget. They're not necessarily in a place to be hiring like a full-time social media manager or someone on retainer services. My goal is to give them everything that they need in that one-time investment, which means, depending on the package they go with, I guess the furthest that I would say that I take it is, the middle of the road package, it includes social media templates. So we would craft like branded templates around what we feel like their ideal message structure would be, or their content structure. So that makes it easier for them to, just plop information into the templates and post regularly without having to, reinvent the wheel every time. But I do offer a content plan as well, which would be like, just coming up with ideas based on their specific strategy that they can repurpose each month, for, all of their posts, whether it's, LinkedIn, whatever we decide is the ideal platform or platforms for them to work on. So essentially it's a lot of like, it's empowering them with their brand assets, getting them set up in Canva so that they have all of their stuff at their fingertips to use and move forward. So that then also when they are in a stage where they grow or scale or are ready to outsource to like an actual social media manager or something like that, they have everything there to hand off and let someone take the reins.
Cool. All right. You've been doing this on your own for 3 years. You clearly, at this point in the conversation, are a branding expert, right? You know your stuff, and you help people in so many ways, and you don't just get here, right? So in business for self 3 years, but what's your journey like? Like, how did you get to the point where you're like, hey, I want to start my own branding business?
Yeah, so it definitely wasn't a straight path for sure. About it's a few years ago, I made the very challenging decision to leave a full-time role that just wasn't aligning with my values or my family's values. It was a particularly difficult decision at the time because I was actually 8 months pregnant with my son.
Wow.
So yeah, it was just something that needed to happen. And it was, absolutely terrifying, like going from a very comfortable setting to, like a steady paycheck, like, oh, I've got another kid coming in and,
Yep.
but it basically forced me to really just reevaluate my values, the things that are important to me, and rebuild something more meaningful from the ground up.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason, and,
Sure.
making lemons out of lemonade, I really was determined to make that mean something. But it also gave me empathy for, people in transition,
Yeah.
right? And so that's where I'm able to really connect with entrepreneurs on that level, because I feel like every business owner at some point goes through some type of stage of transition, or, where they're reinventing themselves, or
Yep.
just seeking clarity in general. And I love that I get to be a part, even if it's just a small part of helping them, find their voice and
Yeah.
their vision.
Your background is in what?
It's my background's in graphic design.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, I worked in house for many years, and then before going out on my own. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So my story, I'll share with you how
Yeah.
how I became an entrepreneur. It's always funny. There's always like this moment where I call them crossroads. I feel like we have like 12 to 15 major crossroads in our life that determine what's written in our obituary if we go left or right, And I was in sales. I was working for a home builder in Northern Virginia, and it was like boiler room, just cutthroat, just high pressure, high commissions. Kelly had Tyler, our first son, when in October 19th, and it was Halloween. So he had been alive 12 days. I still hadn't met him. Because we were like 7 days a week and 12-hour days, and we had a quota to hit every month for how many homes we had to write, and I was one away. And if you've been to a new home community, we work out of a model home, and then we bring people out to the sites, and we've got the blueprints and all that, and tour the house. So I'm in this model home house, and it's now dark out, and it's after 5, and Kelly's calling, like, and trick-or-treaters are coming to our door. The baby's like trying to sleep, and the dog's barking, and trick-or-treaters, and it's just this whole thing. And I'm like, I need to leave work, but I was one sale short, and my district manager called me, really pleasant woman, and and she says, are you gonna get the last sale? And I'm like, I don't think so. I go, and I'm taking off for the night. And she's like hell you are. She's like, I don't care if you have to sleep in that effing house tonight. She goes, and sell it to a trick-or-treater. Your ass isn't leaving until we get this last sale. And it was a crossroad. And, I was in my late 20s. This is many years ago. And I was coming up on a $32,000 commission check, which was like real money back then, I mean, it still would be today. And the next day, I made that similar decision where I'm like, hey, like this just what, for what?
Right.
What's the money for if
Right.
I have no quality of life? And so, went in the next day and turned my keys in, and that was that. And we got in a car with a baby and a dog and a house we just put on the market, and we drove back to New York, and my wife was crying, and she goes, did we make the right decision? And I'm like, I don't know.
We're going to figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I just love, when people find the courage to dive in. And I think you and I are similar in that I love helping new entrepreneurs because I know how hard it is, and the anxiety that comes with it. So,
And plus, like, you can relate to that fire that ignites in you, where it's like, I'm never going to put myself in a position to have to, sacrifice what I believe in, right? Like, you would have had to sacrifice something major,
sure.
And so it's, it gives you that level of empathy and that connection to other people that are trying to do something similar, for sure.
Yeah. And I can proudly say now, I mean, Ty's 20 this year, but, 3 children. There's been a couple things that I've missed, but overall, I mean, like every school event, every field trip, all the sports games. Like, I mean, it allowed me to not miss anything. Now, don't get me wrong. There's early mornings, there's late nights, there's weekends, in between. But
there's flexibility within that.
Yeah. What's next? Where's this thing going?
It's. I am having a lot of fun right now, just kind of building the things that I've built out. And so I haven't honestly thought much about that.
Okay.
My goal is I want to, get to a point where I am, helping, more people. I want to help more entrepreneurs. I want to, have more people per month that I'm working with, which is why, the Soul Sprint comes in. I want to, get it to a point where, it's growing. I want it to grow. It's only been 2 years, you know, so that's where I'm at right now, and we'll see.
How do people connect with you?
So right on my website, it's lifewellbranded.com. There's a booking link right at the bottom, or my email address is also there. It's Vanessa@lifewellbranded.com. You can email me anytime and set something up.
Yeah.
Chat. Yeah.
And check out your website too.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone checks out your website because it's awesome. You're doing like fun reading and all the branding. You look like someone I want to work with.
Awesome.
Yeah, so good job.
Thank you.
We always end with some rapid fire questions. Some are rapid fire, some aren't. I don't know what I'm about to ask you, but I laugh because, sometimes it's like, hey, where's your favorite restaurant? And then sometimes it's like, what's the meaning of your life?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't know where this is going to go. We'll start with an easy one, though. What's your favorite season? You did mention in your form to us that you love the area because there's 4 seasons.
Yeah.
And I think you put in parentheses like sort of.
Sort of, right? Yeah. It seems like we're getting 2 now.
So what's your favorite here?
Fall, 100%. Okay. I love fall.
Best business advice you received?
Follow your own path.
Yeah. That's great.
Don't try to do what everyone else is doing.
Run your own race. You know, the comparison trap is real. You talked about imposter syndrome earlier. Yeah. We sometimes think everyone else has it all figured out. Yeah. I'm here to tell you, nobody has it figured out.
No, right. Nobody.
What's the biggest branding mistake that you see people making, entrepreneurs making?
Oh, gosh, I would have to say changing it all the time, changing their direction all the time, with just based on what other people are doing, thinking, if they're doing that, then maybe I should try that. And, really just making sure, not that pivoting is always bad, but, it's, if you're pivoting, making sure that there's a reason for it, right? If you're pivoting, making sure that something currently isn't working, And
Here comes a tough one. Yeah, what's Vanessa's personal brand?
I think for me, in my life, there's just this overarching theme of well-being. When I left my job, one of the first things that I did before even starting my business was became a part-time fitness coach. So shameless plug for them, One Up Wellness in Utica. If you are interested in a great community gym, it's an awesome, awesome space. But just as a whole in my life, I think, this idea of holistic wellness and freedom and flexibility and just, taking care of yourself and your time and, being present, that's something that's really important to me because it's something that I struggle with. So,
you're the one?
Yeah,
it's you.
That's me. That's me.
No, but that's a great answer. Yeah. And, I get that feeling. You have this vibe about you that, not that you have it all figured out, but everything seems to be handled well, right? I mean, you've got this artistic aspect, you've got the graphic design thing, you're doing the brand thing, right? You're leading your family, you're doing the fitness thing, but through it all, you're very approachable and real and relatable, and I think that definitely serves you well when you work with others.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
that's a great compliment. Thank you.
Well, it's true. All right, let's talk about creative process. So when you're stuck, what's your go-to?
When I'm stuck, my go-to is, honestly, there's 2 different things. Stopping altogether, because that's one thing that I used to just, try to find inspiration in all these places. Just kind of stopping and sitting in silence or stillness or nature, to be honest, because I've realized that the more cluttered my head is, the harder it is for that creativity to flow. And, and if I am in a space where I want to search for inspiration elsewhere, I love Pinterest, rather than doom scrolling Facebook or Instagram, just getting lost in all of the creative stuff in Pinterest.
Cool.
It's fun.
One brand that you think gets it absolutely right.
I have to say, I'll just throw this out because it's one that I've been admiring lately. My daughter gets these Kiwi crate things. Okay. They're like these child activities. And, you know, I don't know if anybody really like knows of them, but check them out. I love that their messaging is so on point. Everything that they send in their kits it's user friendly. It's color coded.
Yeah.
They always send these great little booklets that go along with it with stories for the kids and extra activities for them to do. And, you know, another favorite brand that everybody knows, I would have to say, is Apple. Like, I don't think I've ever seen them get it wrong.
Listen, when people wait in line hours to spend the kind of money people spend, you know, I mean, it's, you know, I look at Apple, I look at Disney, you know, the whole part of the club, and I'm not a huge Disney fan personally, but brand-wise, they crush it. Oh Starbucks, you know, again, people wait forever when they could get it cheaper and faster somewhere else. Harley Davidson, you know, like they wave. When you can create a culture where your users feel like they're part of the family, like they wave to each other but not anyone else, you know.
It's right, like nobody else is on a different bike. It's like it's affinity, right? Like there's a big difference between brand loyalty, and not a huge difference, but you can feel the difference. You know, loyalty versus affinity. Like loyalty is like, okay, I'm gonna go with that place all the time, but affinity is like, I am a part of this community, you know. So
that's what we got to do. We got to figure out how to get there. Get ourselves there. You talk about fitness. What's a fitness lesson from you know, your coaching there, or just your journey there, that applies to business?
Leap outside of your comfort zone. I mean, like all in all, like I think that's a theme that carries through both, for sure. You know, like there's a confidence that comes from, you know, doing things that you never thought that you would do, and then achieving them and being like, oh my gosh, like now what? You know, what can I do next? Right. And I think that, you know, I really do think that like your mental health and your personal life are so tied to your overall physical well-being. Like there's definitely a connection there.
You know, I say all the time, you know what you're capable of, you know what you can do. And if you just keep doing that over and over again, there is no growth.
Right.
You know, so it's almost sounds like it's almost become like a business cliche. It's overused, like leave your comfort zone. But truly everything good, well, it's cliche because it's true.
It's
right?
true.
Everything good that happens outside of your comfort zone.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
All right. One thing we didn't talk about, your family has a New York State Adventure scratch off.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, this is cool to me. So first of all, where do you get that?
So my husband, I think, just ordered them on Amazon, but they're like, have you been to I'm sure you've been there in Clinton, the local, like, is it just 315 local or some
farmers market?
Something local? No, it's a shop. It's a store like in the village of Clinton. And I think that they have them there because I've seen them there, but they are. And I think they have one for every state, not in that store, but you can order one for every state. But they are literally these scratch-off cards with a different place to go every, you know,
whenever you want. And you guys do it monthly, right?
Yeah, we do it monthly. We let the kids just pick one at random, and wherever it is, it's, you know, that's regardless of it's rain or shine, like we're going to go and make the most of it.
That's so cool. What was your last one?
So this is funny. Our last one was Howe Caverns. It was on Saturday when it got flooded, but we drove all the way there. Yeah. And
what does one do in Fonda or wherever Howe Caverns is when the caverns are closed?
Yeah.
What was the pivot?
We found a random mall in Rotterdam that actually had like this giant indoor arcade and a roller skating rink. So my daughter was so excited because she never roller skated before, and she ended up not being as disappointed as she originally was when they were closed.
When you leave for Howe Caverns, you probably don't anticipate roller skating.
No,
so
but it's an adventure.
Good pivot. Yeah, I like that. What's one book or resource you recommend to every entrepreneur?
Referrals Done Right, obviously. Oh, look at that.
Look at you.
Book or resource for every entrepreneur. You know, a really, really good one is, and I'm going to go along with similar lines to, you know, your book, but Go Giver.
Yeah, that's an amazing book.
It's such an amazing book. I love that it's written in parable form. So, you know, you feel like you're kind of escaping into a story. Yeah. But,
yeah, very well written. And, you know, leading with that servant heart. And I know you do this, right? You do a lot of stuff for free. And when, you know, from a business standpoint, it doesn't seem logical, but all this stuff comes back to you, right? And 10x. And last one, something that typically surprises people about Vanessa?
I think because I'm a fitness professional, people assume that I eat healthy all the time, and I don't. I lived off of Totino's pizza rolls and bagels when I was pregnant, and I still have pizza with my family every Friday night, and I love chocolate ice cream. So
where's the pizza from?
You know, this is awful. If I had my preference, it would be Pizza Boys or Sicilian Delight. Those are my two favorites. My husband gets it at Domino's because the kids love their little personal pan pizzas, but it's the kids.
Listen, I get it. It's you got kids. You got to do what the kids want to do. The company is Life Well branded. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you connect with Vanessa on social and any other way you can. And if you are struggling with some brand confusion, an identity crisis, she is your girl. Definitely give her a shout. I appreciate the conversation today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.